I burned him alive, and the worst part is, if I could go back, I'd do it again. But this time, I'd take my time. This time, I'd make him suffer more. I know it sounds awful. I know you probably think I'm crazy or a monster. Maybe I am. But before you judge me, before you close this video and say I'm trash, I need you to hear my whole story. Because what I'm about to tell you is something I've held on to for months. Something that's destroying me inside, and I need to get it out. I need someone to understand why I did it. My name is Jamal. I'm 17 years old, and 6 months ago, I killed my uncle. I dragged him to the abandoned greenhouse on our farm, still conscious, looking into my eyes as he begged me not to. I doused everything with fuel and lit the match. The police said it was an accident, that he was drunk and smoking. No one suspected a thing. At the funeral, everyone cried for him. I cried too, but my tears were different. This story I'm about to tell you is brutal. It's disturbing. It has violence. It has betrayal. It has secrets that will probably change the way you see the world. But it's real. It's my life, and I need to share it because I can't carry this weight anymore. I'm going to start from the beginning, from when everything seemed normal. I was born and raised on a farm far from town. My family is African American, deeply religious, and very traditional. My father was the kindest man I've ever known. He worked the land, raised livestock, and always had a smile for me. He taught me to ride a horse when I was 6. He took me to church every Sunday. He told me stories of our ancestors before bed. When I was 8, my father died. Or so we were told. It was on a hunting trip. They said his shotgun accidentally discharged while he was crossing a fence. They found him in the woods, bled out. My mother was devastated. I was too. I lost my hero. After his death, my mother had to take over everything. The farm, the livestock, the finances. It was just the two of us. Well, and my paternal grandmother, who lived in the main house, but she was very old and sick. A few months after my father's death, my uncle Marcus arrived. He was my dad's younger brother. He came from the city, where he worked in some import business. He arrived in a suit, with his fancy truck, with his perfect smile. He told my mother he came to help, that we were family, that he couldn't let us be alone. My mother welcomed him like a gift from heaven. Everyone in town saw him that way. The noble brother who leaves his city life to care for the widow and the orphan. What a good man, they said. What a blessing for that family. At first, everything seemed normal. My uncle helped with the farm, fixed things around the house, drove my mother to town when she needed to shop. With me, he was kind. He bought me things, asked about school, played basketball with me in the yard. I was 10 when it started. The first time was in the tool shed. He had asked me to help him find a hammer. He closed the door behind us. He said we needed to talk about man things, things my father couldn't teach me anymore. He said it was his duty as my uncle to complete my education. I'm not going into details about what happened. I can't. I'll just say that when I left that room, I wasn't the same boy. Something inside me broke that day, and it kept breaking again and again over the next few years. The worst wasn't the abuse itself. The worst was that he recorded everything with his phone, with hidden cameras he put in different places, and he told me about it. He showed me the videos. He told me that if I ever spoke, he'd upload them to the internet, that he'd send them to the church, that my mother would die of shame, that our whole community would disown us, that we'd be outcasts. And I believed him because I knew my community. I knew how strict they were about these things. I knew the weight of honor and shame in our culture. I knew that if those videos came out, it wouldn't just destroy me. It would destroy my mother too. So I stayed silent for years. In school, I acted normal. Well, I tried. My grades dropped. I became quieter. I stopped having close friends. Teachers sometimes asked if everything was okay at home. I'd smile and say yes. I was just tired from farm chores. My uncle continued to be the perfect man to everyone. He went to church, helped neighbors, donated money to charities. He was untouchable. And every time I saw him act like that, every time I heard people praise him, I felt like I was drowning. The abuses continued once or twice a week, sometimes more. It depended on his mood, how much he'd drunk, whether my mother was home or not. He always found the moment, always found the excuse, and always recorded. I developed insomnia, nightmares, panic attacks that I had to hide. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. I saw a stranger, someone dirty, broken, useless. I thought about killing myself more times than I can count. I had a plan for how to do it. In the woods, like my father. Maybe it was hereditary. Maybe the pain was something passed down through generations in my family. But something always stopped me. I don't know if it was cowardice or hope, maybe a little of both. When I was 13, someone new came to my school. Her name was Chloe. She was from the city. Her family had moved to town because her father got a job at City Hall. Chloe was different. She had blue-dyed hair. She wore clothes that scandalized the ladies of the town. She listened to music no one else knew, and for some reason, she decided to be my friend. At first, I didn't understand why. I was the quiet kid, the weirdo, the one always alone at recess. But she just sat next to me one day in the cafeteria and started talking about music, about movies, about how boring the town was, about everything and nothing. Little by little, Chloe became my only friend, the only person I could talk to. Well, not about everything, never about what was happening at home, but about other things, about dreams, about plans to leave this town someday, about what life would be like somewhere else, where no one knew us. Chloe was smart, observant. Sometimes she looked at me in a way that scared me, like she could see through me, like she knew something was wrong. She asked me things, if everything was okay at home, if my uncle was good to me, if I needed to talk about something. I always denied everything, smiled, changed the subject, but inside I was screaming, begging her to insist, to force me to tell her, to save me somehow. She never did, and I never spoke. Months passed. Chloe and I became inseparable. We studied together, walked home together after school, stayed up late talking on the phone. My mother was happy that I finally had a friend. My uncle also seemed happy, too happy. One day, when I was 14, I almost told Chloe. We were by the creek, in our secret spot where no one bothered us. She was talking about something that had happened at her house, some problem with her parents, and suddenly the words were in my throat, ready to come out. Chloe, I need to tell you something awful. She looked at me, waited, and I couldn't. Fear paralyzed me. I saw the videos in my mind. I saw my mother's face if she found out. I saw my entire life crumbling. Nothing. Forget it. I was just thinking silly things. Chloe didn't insist, but I saw the disappointment in her eyes, as if she knew she'd lost an opportunity to help me. The abuses continued, worsened. My uncle became bolder, crueler. Sometimes he'd do it when my mother was home, in adjacent rooms, like a game for him, like testing how much he could get away with. And always, the camera's recording. When I turned 15, something changed between Chloe and me. We stopped being just friends. We started doing something more. It didn't happen in a planned way. One day, while we were walking back from school, she just took my hand, and I didn't let go. Chloe became my salvation, my reason to keep living. When I was with her, I could forget for a moment what was happening at home. I could feel normal. I could feel human. We had to keep our relationship a secret. Chloe's parents were ultra-religious, evangelical Christians who thought dating before marriage was a sin. And in my community, having a girlfriend without family approval was also frowned upon. So we met in secret by the creek, in the woods, in places where no one would find us. For the first time in years, I felt something akin to happiness. It was fragile, built on sand, but it was real. My uncle noticed the change in me. He saw me smile more. He heard me talking on the phone at night. One day, he asked if I had a girlfriend. I denied it. He smiled. That smile that made my skin crawl. It's okay if you do. You're a young man now. It's normal. If you ever want to introduce her to me, I'd love to meet her. I'm your family. You can trust me. I never, ever thought about introducing Chloe to him. The idea alone made me nauseous. I wanted to keep those two parts of my life completely separate, my hell at home and my paradise with her. But my uncle was cunning, much more than I thought. A few months passed. Chloe and I continued to meet in secret. We planned our future. We said that as soon as we finished school, we'd go to the city together. We'd get jobs, rent a small apartment. We'd be far from our families, from this town, from everything that hurt us. They were teenage dreams, naive, impossible, but we clung to them as if they were real. One day, when I was 15 and a half, Chloe didn't show up at our meeting spot after school. I waited an hour, 2 hours. I texted her, called her, nothing. I worried. Chloe never missed our dates, never. That night, around 10, I received a message from her. It just said, "I need to see you tomorrow. It's urgent." I didn't sleep that night. I knew something bad had happened. I could feel it in my bones. The next day, when we met by the creek, Chloe was destroyed. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. She was trembling, could barely speak. It took me almost an hour to get her to tell me what had happened, and when she did, my world fell apart. My Uncle Marcus had found Chloe. He had sent her a message from an unknown number, pretending to be a friend of mine from school. He had told her they needed to talk about a surprise birthday party for me, to meet at a coffee shop in town. Chloe went, of course she went, because she loved me, because she wanted to do something special for me. My uncle was waiting for her. He bought her a coffee. They chatted. He was charming, as he always was with everyone. He told her he knew me well, that he knew how special Chloe was to me, that he wanted to help plan something memorable. And then he put something in her drink. Chloe doesn't remember much after that. Fragments. Him taking her to his truck. A dark place. Pain. His laughter. A camera. When she woke up, she was in the coffee shop parking lot again. 3 hours had passed. She was alone, sore, bleeding, destroyed. And on her phone, there was a message from my uncle with an attached video and text that said, "If you speak, this video goes to your whole school, your family, your church. Everyone will know what you did, how dirty you are." As Chloe told me this through sobs, something inside me died, and something darker, something monstrous, was born in its place. I hugged Chloe. I told her everything would be okay, that we'd find a solution, that I'd protect her. But inside, I could only think of one thing: killing my uncle, making him suffer, destroying him as he had destroyed us. That night, I confronted Marcus. I waited for my mother to fall asleep. I went down to the tool shed where he was working. I closed the door behind me. He looked at me and smiled, as if he knew exactly why I was there. "Your little friend told you?" How quick. I thought it would take her longer to process what happened. I don't remember when I grabbed the hammer that was on the table. I just remember suddenly having it in my hand, raised, ready to crack his skull. "Do it," he said, calmly, almost bored. "Do it, and you destroy your life too. Think carefully, Jamal. If you kill me, the police will investigate. They'll find my phone, they'll find the cameras, they'll find everything, and then everyone will know. Your mother, your family, the whole town will know what you did, what she did. The videos will come out anyway." The hammer fell from my hand. He approached, put a hand on my shoulder like a loving uncle comforting his nephew. "But it doesn't have to be this way. You stay silent." She stays silent, and we all go on with our lives. Simple, easy, everyone happy. Then he leaned in and whispered something in my ear that chilled my blood. "And now I have 2 videos. Jamal, 2 insurance policies. If one of you speaks, both videos come out. Imagine what they'll say at school when they see your precious Chloe. Imagine how they'll treat her, the things they'll do to her, and it will all be your fault for not being able to keep your mouth shut." I left that room trembling. I vomited in the yard. I cried until I had no more tears, and I knew with absolute certainty that someday I would kill him. But I had to be smart. I had to plan. I had to wait for the perfect moment. The following weeks were hell. Chloe fell into a deep depression. She stopped going to school. When we went, she barely spoke. She'd startle at any noise. She had lost weight. She had permanent dark circles under her eyes. I tried to be there for her, but I felt so helpless, so useless. And then came the news that finished breaking everything. Chloe was pregnant. She was 15. She was pregnant by the man who had raped her, the man who was my uncle. When she told me, we both cried for hours. We didn't know what to do. Her parents couldn't know. Mine couldn't either. The community even less. An abortion was our only option, but there were no clinics in this town. And to go to one in the city, we needed money, a lot of money. I sold everything of value I had, my video game console, my bike, some of my father's equipment that I kept. I gathered enough. I found a clinic 3 hours away, a place that asked no questions. We made up an excuse for Chloe to miss school for 3 days. We said her grandmother was sick in another city. The day of the procedure was the worst of my life. I waited outside that clinic for 5 hours. Every minute felt like years. When she came out, she was pale, weak, in pain. I took her to a cheap hotel where we spent the night. She cried in my arms. I cried with her. "I'm so sorry," she kept saying. "I'm sorry. It's not your fault," I replied. "None of this is your fault." But inside, I hated my uncle with every fiber of my being, with every cell of my body. It was a hatred that consumed everything else, a hatred that made me want to tear off my skin just to feel something different. We returned to town. Chloe recovered physically, but mentally, emotionally, Something in her had died. 2 weeks after the abortion, Chloe had complications. An infection, high fever, bleeding. She couldn't go to the hospital. It would be too obvious. Too many questions. I hid her in the abandoned utility room in her own house, a place her parents never entered. For days, I secretly cared for her. I stole medicine from the pharmacy, brought her food, cleaned her wounds. She almost died. There was one night when her fever rose so high that she was delirious, saying meaningless things. She cried for her mother, and I was there, holding her hand, begging a God I no longer believed in to let her live. She survived. But after that, she was never the same Chloe. She stopped smiling, stopped dreaming, stopped talking about our future together. She became a shadow of who she had been, and I felt responsible. Because if she had never met me, none of this would have happened to her. My uncle never would have touched her. She would be fine. She would be truly alive, not just breathing. The abuses against me continued. Now my uncle enjoyed them more because he knew he had me completely trapped. Not just with my videos, but with Chloe's too. One day, 2 months after the whole abortion ordeal, I found Chloe in her bathroom at home. It was a Saturday afternoon. Her parents had gone to a church meeting. I had gone to visit her. I knocked on the bathroom door. No answer. I called her name. Silence. Something in my chest tightened. I pushed the door open. She was on the floor, in a pool of blood. Her wrists cut, a razor on the floor beside her. I screamed. I don't know what I said. I don't remember. I just remember falling to my knees beside her, pressing my hands to her wounds, dialing emergency, begging her to stay with me, not to leave me. The ambulance arrived in time. They saved her. But as soon as her parents found out about everything, well, not everything. We told them it had been due to depression, school pressure, teenage problems, nothing about the rape, nothing about the abortion, nothing about my uncle. Chloe was admitted to a psychiatric clinic for 3 weeks. I couldn't visit her. Her parents wouldn't allow it. They said I was a bad influence, that our friendship wasn't healthy. When she was released, her parents changed her school to a private, religious one on the other side of town. They said she needed a new beginning. I only got to see her one more time before all that happened. She came up to me after school, the day before she was admitted. "It's not your fault," she told me. "None of this is your fault, Jamal." But I knew the truth. It was all my fault for being weak, for not speaking up, for not protecting her. That night, something changed in me, something fundamental. I stopped feeling fear. I stopped feeling guilt. I stopped feeling almost anything, except one thing: determination. I was going to kill my uncle, and I no longer cared about the consequences. I started planning seriously, not impulsively, not out of blind rage, but coldly, calculatingly. I researched murders, how to dispose of evidence, how to make it look like an accident. I spent hours on the internet using public Wi-Fi cafes, so it couldn't be traced back to me. I studied my uncle's habits. When he drank, how much he drank, where he kept his phone, where he had his cameras, when he was alone. I learned about fires, fuels, ignition points, how to make something seem accidental. Months passed. I acted normal. I went to school, helped on the farm, endured the abuses, smiled when I had to smile, talked when I had to talk. But inside, I was only planning his death. I gained access to his phone one night when he was too drunk to notice. I unlocked it, and there were the videos. Mine, Chloe's, and others. Others. There were more victims. It wasn't just me. It wasn't just Chloe. I recognized some kids from the youth basketball team my uncle had coached years ago, a distant cousin who used to visit us, some I didn't know, and there were very old videos of a little girl from many years ago. It took me a second to recognize her. When I did, I felt the floor open beneath me. It was Nia, my cousin, my maternal aunt's daughter. The videos were from when she was 11 or 12. Nia was now 22. She lived in the city, studying medicine. She rarely came to town. I downloaded all the videos to an external hard drive. All of them. I made copies, hid them in different places. 2 days later, I went to the city with the excuse of running errands. I looked for Nia at her university. When she saw me, she was surprised. We hadn't seen each other in years. She asked what I was doing there. "I need to talk to you about Uncle Marcus." Her face changed immediately, as if she'd seen a ghost. I took her to a park near the university. I showed her the hard drive. I told her what it contained. She was silent for a long time. Then she started to cry. It wasn't the cry of someone surprised. It was the cry of someone who had carried a horrible secret for too long. "You knew?" I said. It wasn't a question. Yes, I knew. She told me everything. How it had started when she was 11, how it had lasted for years, how she had tried to tell her mother once, but Marcus had threatened to kill her younger brother if she spoke, how she had moved to the city as soon as she could, how she had never really returned, how she had tried to forget, to bury it, to pretend it never happened. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. When it happened to me, when I needed help, why didn't you help me? Because I was scared, she cried. Because I thought if I didn't talk about it, if I pretended it never happened, maybe I could forget it. Maybe I could be normal. I'm so sorry, Jamal. I'm sorry. I told her everything about myself, about Chloe, about the abortion, about the other videos I had found. When I finished, Nia stopped crying. Her face hardened. What are you going to do? She asked. I'm going to kill him. I expected her to tell me not to tell me to go to the police, to tell me there were better ways. Instead, she said, do it, and if you need help, count me in. We spent hours talking, planning. Nia helped me perfect my plan. She gave me ideas. She told me her mother, my aunt, was a private investigator, that she had contacts, that she knew a lawyer who handled sensitive cases. When you do it, Nia told me, give me the videos. I'll take them to that lawyer. She'll keep them, and if anything happens to you, if the police suspect you, we'll hand them over to the authorities. It's your life insurance. That was exactly what I did. I went home. I waited for the perfect moment. It came on a Thursday night, 3 weeks after my conversation with Nia. My mother had gone to the city to visit a sick friend. She would stay there all night. My grandmother was sleeping soundly, sedated by her medication. My uncle was in the abandoned greenhouse behind the farm. It was his favorite place to drink when he wanted to be alone. He'd go there with his bottle of whiskey and his cigars. Sometimes he'd fall asleep there. I had been preparing that greenhouse for weeks, moving things, making sure there was enough flammable material around. Dry plants, old wood, fertilizers. The fuel tank for the farm machinery was right next to it. That night, I waited until he was well and truly drunk. I watched him from afar. I saw him stumble, saw his bottle fall to the floor, saw him close his eyes. I approached silently. I carried the fuel can, gloves, and a mask. When I entered the greenhouse, he opened his eyes. He saw me. He tried to get up, but he was too drunk. He fell. Jamal, what are you doing? I didn't answer. I just poured the fuel. All over the greenhouse, all over his clothes too. He finally understood what was happening. He tried to drag himself towards the exit. I kicked his hand. Please, he began to beg. Please, Jamal. We can talk. I can delete the videos. I can leave. You'll never see me again. Please, you beg now, I said. My voice sounded strange, as if it came from far away. You beg now? After years? I pulled out my phone. I showed him the screen. It was a picture of Chloe in the hospital after her suicide attempt. She almost died because of you. Then I slid to the next photo. It was a screenshot of one of his videos, Naya's, when she was a child. This is for all of them. For every child you touched. For every life you destroyed. He kept begging. Now he was crying too. Snot and tears mixing on his face. He looked pathetic. I leaned over him. I whispered something in his ear. Something I will never tell anyone else. Something just between him and me. Then I pulled out the lighter. Wait, my uncle said. Wait, there's something you have to know about your father. What? I asked. Not because I cared, just out of morbid curiosity. Your father didn't kill himself. I mean, yes, he killed himself. But it wasn't a hunting accident. My hand with the lighter froze. He knew, my uncle continued, the words tumbling out of his mouth, desperate to buy time. He found out what I was doing to you when you were 12. He saw you acting strange one day, checked my phone, found everything. I felt as if I'd been punched in the stomach. I gave him a choice, Marcus continued, his silence or the videos on the internet. I told him that if he spoke, your life would be ruined forever, that everyone would see you as something dirty, that your mother would disown you, that the community would make your life impossible. Are you lying? I'm not lying. He chose. He chose to protect you. He chose to take the secret to the grave. He literally blew his brains out in the woods so that you could keep living without carrying the shame. I don't know if he was telling the truth. I'll never know. But at that moment, something inside me caught fire long before the greenhouse. I lit the fire. The flames spread quickly. The fuel did its job. My uncle started screaming. He tried to get up. He tried to run, but the fire was faster. I watched him burn. I watched his skin blister, his clothes melt, his screams grow sharper and then weaker. I didn't look away. I didn't leave. I stayed there, watching, until he stopped moving. When the fire finally consumed everything and died down, I cleaned up my tracks. I checked for evidence. I made sure it looked like an accident. My mother arrived the next morning. Someone had seen the smoke during the night and called the fire department, but by the time they arrived, it was too late. My uncle's body was charred, unrecognizable. The police arrived. They investigated. They interviewed everyone. My story was simple. I had been in my room all night with headphones, playing video games online. I heard nothing, saw nothing. My online gaming history confirmed it. I had left it running all night. A perfect alibi. The police concluded it had been an accident. Marcus had been drinking, smoking. He had probably dropped an unextinguished cigarette near the fuel. A tragedy, a completely avoidable death. My mother was devastated. The whole family was. At the funeral, the whole town came. They cried for the good man who had lost his life, for the noble brother, for the beloved uncle. I cried at the funeral too, but my tears were different. They were tears of relief, of liberation, of victory. Nia came to the funeral. She hugged me. She whispered in my ear, "Well done." The days turned into weeks, the weeks into months. Life went on. I went back to school. I tried to be normal. I tried to forget. But you can't kill someone and just forget it. You can't watch a human being burn alive and not carry that forever. I have nightmares, not about the fire, not about his screams, but about what he said before he died. About my father. Was it true? My father really killed himself to protect me, to save me from shame. If it's true, then he died for me, and I lived with my abuser for years after that. My father sacrificed himself, and it was all for nothing. That destroys me more than anything else. Chloe moved with her family to another city 3 months ago. Her parents decided she needed a new beginning. We talk sometimes by message. She's doing better, in therapy, making new friends. I never told her what I did. She never will. Sometimes I wonder if I should have just gone to the police with the videos, if I should have trusted the justice system. But I know the system. I know how these things work. Abuse cases take years. Victims are re-traumatized during trials. The videos would have come out anyway. Chloe would have been exposed. Nia too. All the other kids in those videos. And maybe my uncle would have walked free with a good lawyer, with his reputation in town, with his money. I couldn't risk that, so I killed him. And if I could go back, I'd do it again. Does that make me a killer? Yes, technically I am. Does that make me a monster? I don't know. You tell me. What I do know is that he was a monster, a predator, a destroyer of lives. And I stopped him. Maybe not in the right way. Maybe not in the legal way. But I stopped him. And now, 6 months later, I look back and wonder, was it worth it? On one hand, yes. I'm no longer abused. The other children in those videos are safe. Chloe can begin to heal without fear of him coming after her again. On the other hand, I carry a death, a murder, the weight of what I did. I can't talk to anyone about this. I can't tell a therapist. I can't confess. I can't share this burden with anyone, except Nia, and she's far away. So I share it with you, with whoever is listening to this. Maybe you think I'm a hero, that I delivered justice when no one else would. Maybe you think I'm a villain, that I should be in prison, that 2 wrongs don't make a right. Honestly, I don't know what to think myself. What I do know is that I don't regret it. If I had to choose again, I'd burn him again, only maybe I'd be slower. Maybe I'd make him suffer more. Does that make me bad? That I wish he had suffered more? My mother sometimes looks at me strangely, as if she knows something, as if her mother's instinct tells her something isn't right, but she never asks, and I never say anything. My grandmother died 2 months ago, peacefully in her sleep, a blessing after so much suffering. At her funeral, my mother hugged me and said, "It's just you and me now, my love, just the 2 of us." And I felt a pang of guilt because she doesn't know that her son is a murderer, that I killed her brother-in-law, that I watched him burn and did nothing to save him. But I also felt relief, because we are safe, because no one is going to hurt us again. The videos are still with Nia's lawyer, saved, secure, a life insurance policy I hope I never have to use. Sometimes I fantasize about the police discovering something, about them coming to arrest me, about finally having to face the consequences. But then I think about what would happen. The videos would come out during the trial. My story would come out, Chloe's story, Nia's, everyone else's. And maybe the jury would understand. Maybe they'd give me a reduced sentence. Maybe they'd say it was self-defense. Maybe they'd say I was protecting others. Or maybe they'd lock me up for life. Maybe they'd say murder is never justified, that I should have trusted the system. I don't know. What I do know is that every night before I sleep, I see his face. I see him burn. I hear him scream. And I feel no remorse, only satisfaction. Does that make me a psychopath? A sociopath? Someone broken beyond repair? Maybe. Or maybe I'm just a kid who was abused for years, who saw the person he loved destroyed by the same monster, and who finally decided to take control in the only way he knew how. You decide. Before I finish, I want to say something to those listening to this who might be going through something similar. If someone is hurting you, speak up. Tell someone, a teacher, a counselor, another family member, the police. I know it's terrifying. I know you're afraid of not being believed. I know you may have been threatened, but speak anyway. Don't do what I did. Don't carry this alone. Don't let it rot inside you until all that's left is rage and violence. There are right ways to do things. Legal ways, ways that won't turn you into a killer. I didn't take those ways, and now I carry this forever. Don't be like me, but if you're already like me, if you've already done something you can't undo, then I can only tell you this. Find a way to live with it. Find something to keep going for, because the alternative is to let yourself be consumed by guilt and darkness. And there's enough darkness in this world already. I know this video has been long. I know it's probably the most disturbing thing you've heard in a long time, but I needed to tell it. I needed to get it out because keeping it inside was killing me as much as my uncle killed me for years. If you made it this far, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for not judging. Or, if you judge, thank you for at least listening to my full story before you do. If this story impacted you, if it made you feel something, like this video, subscribe to the channel by hitting the subscribe button over here. Every day we share real stories like this, stories that need to be told. And if you have your own story, if you've lived something similar, let me know in the comments. Or, if you prefer to keep it private, I just want you to know that you're not alone, that there are others like you, like me, and that maybe, in some twisted way, that makes us a little less monstrous. Sorry if the video was too long, but these things can't be told in 5 minutes. They need time. They need space. They need to be told completely. Thanks for staying with me until the end. Thanks for being part of this community, where we support each other, where we don't judge without knowing the full story. See you in the next video, if there is a next video, if they don't arrest me first. But if that happens, well, at least I'll have told my truth first. Gosh.